Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to share and subscribe the channel. Ryan Davenport smelled burning circuitry before he saw the wreck. The cargo shuttle's distress beacon blinked weakly under layers of Martian dust, its hull cracked open like a broken womb. With one hand on the controls, Ryan guided his skiff down to the crash site, the wind whipping orange grains against the cockpit glass. He'd been told to ignore any anomalies. Mars was full of stranded prospectors and senile terraformers. But something about that beacon tugged at him. He stepped onto the cracked metal ground, each footfall sending up tiny clouds of ochre. The heat from the wreck stung his boots through the reinforced soles of his flight suit. He crouched beside a gash in the ship's side where a silvery light pulsed faintly. Inside, tangled in mangled wires and half-melted seats, lay a figure. She was slender, her skin a pale violet that caught the dying light in soft gradients. Her limbs looked fragile as though sculpted from glass and on the verge of shattering. Her head lolled to one side and her breath came in shallow, irregular pulses. Ryan's training kicked in: stabilize, assess, evacuate. He shoved his gloved hand under her shoulder blade, bracing her head with the other. "I've got you," he murmured, though she could not understand his words. Her dark eyes fluttered open, and for a moment he saw galaxies reflected in them. Pain flared across her features before they drifted closed again. He loaded her into the skiff's cargo cradle and sealed the hatch. Back in the cockpit, Ryan dialed Tarsi's dispatch. "This is Skiff 1-2 requesting medical evac," he said evenly. "Unknown species, 1 injured, coordinates inbound." Static buzzed. "Stowaway protocol, you're kidding." "Protocol dictates you leave it," the voice crackled. "Mars is not authorized for alien contact." Ryan's jaw clenched. Official orders or not, he had just locked eyes with a living being whose fate now rested in his hands. He set the autopilot for Tarsi's station and tapped the beacon to stay hidden from military scanners. Every instinct told him this stranger's life mattered more than corporate policy. The journey orbited Mars twice. Inside the dim hold, Celara drifted between consciousness and shadows. Ryan hovered at the hatch, studying the tiny rise and fall of her chest. He wondered who she was, where she came from, and why her ship had crashed into the red desert. He placed a hand on the view screen glass, and for a heartbeat he almost expected her violet gaze to meet his. She rasped awake, fear sharpened her features. "Zekara," she whispered, the sound like wind through alien chimes. Ryan propped a medipack beside her and located a spray applicator. "Hold still," he said, aiming a fine mist at a deep gash along her ribcage. She flinched but offered no protest. Her voice softened. "Ryan Davenport." He hesitated. "How do you know my name?" Celara's lashes flickered downward, shame or pain he couldn't read. "Pact," she breathed. "Pact, we share blood now." Ryan froze. He'd heard legends of interstellar covenants binding saviors to strange obligations. He pressed his fingers to her palm. It felt impossibly warm. "What are you saying?" Before she could answer, the cabin lights flickered. A soft klaxon sounded. Ryan cursed under his breath. Station security would be here any second. He slid the hatch open and half-hauled Celara into his arms. "I won't let them take you," he vowed, glancing at the corridor. Ice-cold lights traced a path to freedom through the docking bay. He carried her to the skiff's side hatch and tossed the hatch lever. The ramp lowered. With a grunt, he lifted her aboard, sealing the ramp just as 2 armed figures appeared at the airlock. Celara's eyes widened. "Pact," she said again, teeth chattering. "Father-child." "First things first," Ryan murmured. "We get you safe, then you can tell me everything." He punched the skiff's nav coordinates toward the hydroponics lab, a hidden alcove beneath the station's botanical dome. Within seconds, the engines thrummed and the echo of boots faded. Celara uncurled in his arms, studying him with raw curiosity. "You are human," she said, "your blood." Ryan exhaled, his heart pounding. "Yeah, human. Now tell me why I just broke station security protocols to bring you here." Her violet eyes glistened. "Because you rescued a stranger and a stranger demands a debt." She paused, breathing ragged. "I require you to father my child." Ryan stared at her. The words hung between them, impossible and urgent. Outside the viewport, Mars turned silent under its dust-filled sky. Inside the tiny cabin, 2 species collided in a moment that would alter the fate of both. Ryan Davenport steered the skiff through the docking corridor of Tarsi's station, his mind racing faster than the engines could hum. Celara lay across the padded bench in the hold, her violet skin pale beneath the harsh fluorescence. Dr. Marcus Havel met him at the airlock, his calm features hiding curiosity and urgency in equal measure. "I've never run diagnostics on Atythian physiology before," Havel said quietly as he suited up. We'll need to get you to medbay immediately. He signaled to Lieutenant Isla Browsard, who stood by with two security officers. Medical priority, Isla ordered, scanning Ryan with a raised brow. But no interference. We need security clearance from Station Command. Ryan set Celera gently on the medbed. Havel began attaching bioprobes to her limbs while Ryan watched, helpless. Celera's breathing was shallow, her fingers twitching with pain. The monitors flickered unfamiliar glyphs that Havel struggled to interpret. Your readings are off any human scale, he muttered. Heart rate, cell regeneration, unbelievable. He pressed a panel on the wall and spoke into it. Dr. Havel to command module. Patient is non-human. Requires diplomatic immunity and translator unit delta. Minutes felt like hours. Celera's eyes fluttered open. She tried to speak, but all that emerged was a soft clicking tone. Ryan knelt beside her. Celera, can you hear me? His voice was gentle, unsteady. She met his gaze, a flicker of hope in those galaxy-dark eyes. She attempted words. Zeka Arna. Havel tapped at a handheld translator. A mechanical voice responded, please clarify, Zek Arna. Celera's eyes widened with frustration. She bit her lip, then exhaled sharply. Clicking noises flowed faster, more insistent. Finally, the device emitted clear tones. I require Covenant discussion, it translated. Ryan and Havel exchanged glances. Isla cleared her throat. Command can't hold this ship hostage, she said to Ryan. If it's diplomatic, we'll shield you, but don't expect station resources to be endless. Understood, Ryan replied. He turned back to Celera. We'll do whatever it takes, tell me what you need. Celera drew a breath, wincing as Havel adjusted a probe. Through the translator, her voice emerged. I am Celera of the Aetithian Star Empire. You possess my lifeblood now. The Covenant demands. Explain the Covenant, Ryan prompted, leaning in. The translator crackled. Ancient ritual. When a mortal saves an Aetithian emissary, the bond of Navessa is invoked. The savior must sire a descendant to ensure the lineage's continuation. Failure to comply results in the emissary's exile and the savior's dishonor. The clan's survival hinges on you. Havel's eyes widened. Clan's survival, you mean their entire species? Celera nodded, tears glinting. Our star nurseries lie dying, our genetic vault corrupted by decades of isolation. Only hybrid offspring can carry sustainable DNA. Without convergence, we face extinction. Ryan's heart pounded. You're telling me I saved you and now I have to mate with you to save your people. It is our law, Celera said, voice steady despite pain. And ours is not the only law at stake. The Aetithian Council will hold me responsible for your refusal. They will punish me and by extension you. Isla frowned. Punish how? Celera's lips trembled. Exile to the void. I will be stripped of rank and left stranded in deep space, and you will bear the Aetithian brand of shame, barred from human Aetithian cooperation. Havel exchanged a worried look with Isla. Tarsi's station relies on diplomatic trade with the Star Empire. A fallout could spark conflict or embargo. We can't afford that. Ryan clenched his fists. He thought of the corporate commanders who would fine him for breaking protocol, the station regulators who would revoke his pilot license. But he also thought of Celera's frailty, the desperation in her gaze. Okay, he said at last, voice rough. Okay, I'll help you. Celera's violet eyes shone with relief. She reached for Ryan's hand, her fingers cold and slender. He squeezed back, determination surging. Tell me what happens next, he said. The translator word. First, you must agree to the Covenant in the presence of a mediator. Celera's gaze flicked to Havel and Isla. Your station's mediator qualifies, you will witness my oath. Isla sighed. Very well, I will arrange for a diplomatic chamber. Havel, prepare medical clearance and sample collection. We'll need to confirm fertility parameters. Ryan felt a surge of embarrassment and fear. Sample collection, he whispered to Celera. She nodded, wincing. Standard, it is part of the ritual. She managed a faint, rueful smile. The least of our worries. Within the hour, the medbay converted into a pale blue chamber lined with symbols of the Neutralist Alliance. Flags of human and Aetithian affiliations hung side by side. A single table held a shallow pool of clear liquid, the convergence basin. As Ryan and Celera entered, Counselor Alos appeared. He wore flowing robes of Aetithian silk marked with elderly patterns in silvery thread. His expression was grave, lips compressed into a thin line. Lieutenant Isla and Dr. Havel stood guard. I am Counselor Alos, he intoned, voice resonant. Mediator of neutral pact. You, Ryan Davenport, stand accused of invoking the Navisa covenant by your rescue of emissary Selara. Do you accept the obligations that arise? Ryan stepped forward, his boots echoed on the metal floor, his throat was dry. I accept, he said, louder than he intended. Selara placed her hand on Ryan's shoulder. Her fingers were cool but firm. And I, Selara of the Third Clan, accept this savior as my covenant partner. Her voice trembled, but she stood tall. Alos inclined his head, then let the ritual commence. He raised a slender staff carved with Atithian glyphs. He dipped the tip into the basin. A soft hum filled the chamber. Havel produced a small vial of fluid from his medical kit. This is the fertility reagent. It will confirm compatibility. He handed it to Ryan. Ryan stared at the vial as though it might explode. Pour it in, Selara encouraged with forced cheer. It's painless. Ryan took a deep breath, uncapped the vial, and poured the luminescent liquid into the basin. The pool glowed, ripples of silver light spreading across the surface. Selara moved closer, her reflection dancing in the luminous water. Alos chanted in Atithian, each word resonating through the metal ribs of the station. The glyphs on his staff pulsed in time. Selara knelt and dipped her hands into the basin. Droplets beaded on her violet palms. Ryan knelt beside her, brushing a lock of red dust from her hair. His heart thudded as he joined her in the basin, his fingers meeting hers in the glowing liquid. Warmth spread from the pool into his veins, stirring an unexpected calm. Do you both consent? Alos asked, voice echoing. We consent, they said together, their voices mingling. The glyphs on Alos's staff flared, and ribbons of light rose from the basin. The holographic projection of an ancient Atithian symbol immersed them, two circles entwined, orbiting a central star. Havel monitored from the side, reading biodata on his handheld. Compatibility at 92%, he whispered to Isla. Isla nodded, expression solemn, that's more than sufficient. Ryan glanced at Selara, her breath caught and she smiled, a vulnerable curve of her lips. A single tear glimmered on her cheek. The covenant is sealed, Alos intoned. By blood and promise you are bound. Ribbons of light coalesced around Ryan and Selara, lifting them a fraction above the basin. They hovered weightless, then gently sank back. The glow faded from the pool, leaving it dark and still. Alos tapped his staff on the floor. The ceremony was complete. You now share a bond that transcends worlds. In time, the child conceived will herald a new chapter for both species. Ryan felt the enormity of the moment crush his lungs. He looked at Selara, whose violet eyes brimmed with tears of hope. What happens now? He asked hoarsely. Selara's gaze softened. First you rest, then we plan for the next phase, but for tonight you have fulfilled your part. Havel moved to examine Selara's vitals again. She needs recovery, you'd better get some sleep, pilot. Lieutenant Isla offered Ryan a curt nod. Quarters are down the hall, security protocols eased for the next 72 hours. Ryan gingerly helped Selara from the basin, draping her in a thermal blanket. Her skin glowed faintly under the blanket's fibers. He steadied her as Havel examined her. She'll stabilize, Havel said, but the convergence may trigger side effects. I'll need to monitor her closely. Ryan's mind spun with questions about those side effects, about the child that might grow inside Selara now. He guided her toward the infirmary rest area, each step weighted by promise and obligation. As they passed the chamber's exit, Selara laid her head on Ryan's shoulder. Thank you, she whispered, for believing in me. He pressed his cheek against her hair. For trusting me, he corrected. We're in this together. Outside, the station's lights glowed against the black void. Ryan felt the covenant's weight settle into his bones. He knew that tomorrow would bring political meetings, security briefings, and perhaps questions he was not ready to answer. But tonight, he held Selara's hand and let the warmth of her small victory quell his fear. In the distance, Mars glimmered through the station's viewport, a silent reminder of home. For the first time, Ryan understood that saving a stranger could demand more than heroism. It could demand faith, sacrifice, and the willingness to start a new life at the edge of the stars. Ryan Davenport sat in the passenger module of the escort vessel, the soft hum of the thrusters a distant lullaby against the void. Selara lay on the padded bench beside him, wrapped in a thermal weave that glowed faintly beneath the corridor lights. He glanced at the viewport. Phobos drifted silently, its pocked surface reflecting the pale light of Mars. Ahead, the Atithian embassy ship hung like a colossal pearl in orbit, its curved hull etched with ancient glyphs. Every ping of the proximity sensors reminded Ryan of the stakes, the convergence covenant, the fate of Selara's clan, and the fragile thread of trust binding two worlds. The docking maneuver was precise. As the vessel's clamps engaged, a soft hiss signaled the seal. The corridor lights shifted to Atithian amber and a slender figure greeted them. Envoy Cora then extended a graceful hand, her amber skin marked by intricate silver tattoos tracing her cheekbones. Welcome aboard, her voice chimed through the translator. Counselor Alos awaits you in the xenodiplomatic wing. She offered Ryan a small, curt nod, then guided them through the airlock. Inside the embassy, human and Aetithian aesthetics intertwined. Bioluminescent panels cast shifting colors across polished marble floors. Walls formed sweeping arches inscribed with both human star charts and Aetithian mythic scenes. Ryan helped Solara steady her steps. The ritual's aftereffects left her legs weak. Every footfall echoed through the cavernous hallways, carrying whispers of startled diplomats and curious aides. At the main junction, Counselor Alos emerged, his flowing robes of silvery blue kimono silk rustling softly. We proceed, he intoned, voice calm as a still lake. Tension crackled in every chamber. Human delegates clustered in heated clusters, murmuring about the unnatural pact. Aetithian traditionalists drifted past, their expressions cold, accusing Solara of dishonoring ancient law. Patrolling arbiter guards kept a watchful eye, their weapons holstered but within easy reach. Ryan felt the weight of their gazes as he guided Solara through the crowds. He squeezed her hand, offering silent support. Solara's jaw tightened. She drew a shuddering breath and pressed on, determined to face her people despite their scorn. Cora then led them down a winding spiral corridor toward the high chamber. The walls here were lined with vertical gardens, Aetithian flora that glowed with soft bioluminescence. Solara paused to rest against a jade-colored vine, its gentle pulse soothing her wounds. Ryan knelt beside her, brushing a few silver petals from her sleeve. You're doing well, he whispered. She looked at him, violet eyes brimming with gratitude and vulnerability. Without you, she murmured, I would not have reached this far. After a few moments, Cora gestured for them to stand. The Xenodiplomatic Affairs section is near. We must meet Envoy Jarvis Tran, your human liaison. The trio emerged into a circular vestibule where a tall human in a dark uniform awaited. Jarvis Tran offered a stiff bow. Welcome, he said crisply. I have arranged a private briefing room. The council meeting will convene at lunar cycle Tau 12. Until then, protocol allows you to rest and prepare. Ryan exchanged a glance with Solara. And after that, he asked, Jarvis's lips pressed into a thin line, the formal ceremony scheduling and any preliminary hearings. There are voices in the human envoy worried about the Covenant's ramifications and Aetithian elders questioning the ritual's sanctity. He tapped a console panel. You'll find the briefing room here, drinks and nutrient packs available. Cora will escort you further. In the private suite, Solara sank onto a cushioned bench and closed her eyes. Ryan scanned the room, soft mats, low tables, and a viewport offering a narrow glimpse of Phobos's horizon. He activated a medkit panel. Here, try some restorative gel, he said, handing her a small applicator. Solara took it with trembling fingers, massaging the cool balm onto her wounds. Within moments, her breathing eased. Ryan exhaled, relief washing over him. Cora then remained poised by the door. Ryan turned to her. Thank you for guiding us, he said quietly. Cora's gaze softened. It is my duty, she replied. But know this, the path ahead is fraught with uncertainty. Not all humans agree on this alliance, and some Aetithians see your bond as an abomination. She paused, studying Ryan's face. You carry more than a stranger's covenant, you carry hope for peace. Ryan nodded, his jaw set. For Solara, he said, and for her people. He looked at Solara, whose eyes opened. I'm tired, she admitted, and afraid. Ryan knelt at her side. I know, but we'll face whatever comes together. He reached for her hand, lacing their fingers. She squeezed gently, finding comfort in his touch. Time passed in quiet preparation. Solara drifted into a light rest, awakening only when Ryan applied fresh nutrient gels. She studied him, the reflection of determination in his eyes. After a moment, she spoke softly through the translator. Ryan, what if they reject us? Her voice trembled. He tilted her chin gently. They won't, he promised. I'll speak for you, stand by you. Your clan saved you, now I save your honor. At dusk, marked by Phobos's long shadow sweeping across the embassy's outer hull, a summons arrived via holo display. Counselor Alos's dignified visage flickered. Your presence is requested in the High Chamber. The Xenodiplomatic Council convenes in 90 standard minutes. The message ended. Ryan rose, offering Solara his arm. She accepted, leaning on him as they navigated the corridor. The High Chamber awaited, an oval room with tiered seats encircling a central dais. Holographic emblems of both human and Aetithian crests floated above. Chatter hushed as Solara and Ryan entered, escorted by Cora and Jarvis. Counselor Alos stood at the dais, flanked by Elder Zarin Vel and Ambassador Kai's Dra. They regarded Solara with solemn eyes. Ryan felt a wave of apprehension as he took his place beside Solara. The ritual's next stage would be decided here, whether they were fit to proceed or if objections would delay the convergence beyond the permissible cycle. He swallowed, recalling Solara's fragile form and the promise he had made. He reached for her hand beneath the bench, giving it a reassuring squeeze. From the council's ranks, a voice rose. Emissary Solara, we have reviewed your condition and the results of the preliminary VAT test aboard Tarsi Station. Envoy Kai's Dra's tone was polite but firm. Your savior, Ryan Davenport, has fulfilled his initial commitment. However, questions remain regarding his biological compatibility and emotional readiness. He paused, turning to Ryan. Will you address the council? Ryan stood heart-pounding. He cleared his throat. Honorable counselors, I accept full responsibility for this covenant. I have no misgivings about fulfilling my duty. He glanced at Selara. Our union is not just a contractual obligation, it is an act of compassion that transcends species. I stand ready to complete the convergence ritual. A hush fell, Selara's breath caught. Counselor Alos inclined his head. Your words are noted, we will vote shortly. Until then, both parties may await in the adjacent antechamber. Cora gestured toward a pair of tall doors. Please, this way. As they left the high chamber, Selara leaned into Ryan. Thank you, she whispered, for speaking truth. He brushed a curl from her forehead. Always, he murmured. Outside, Cora offered a rare, gentle smile. Prepare yourselves, the vote may sway either way. Regardless, you must remain united. In the antechamber's quiet, Ryan and Selara sat side by side on a low dais. The soft glow of Aetithian lanterns cast shifting patterns across the polished floor. From behind the doors, muffled discussion drifted through. Selara closed her eyes, breathing slow. Ryan draped an arm around her shoulders, holding her close. Minutes later, the doors opened. Cora stepped in, her expression unreadable. The council has reached a decision. Ryan's heart lurched. Selara gripped his hand. Cora inhaled, then spoke. You are granted permission to proceed with the convergence ritual. The ceremony will take place within 4 standard hours. May your bond withstand the trials ahead. Selara's eyes filled with tears of relief. Ryan exhaled a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. He rose, lifting Selara into his arms. We did it, he whispered. She nestled against him, voice thick with emotion. With you, anything is possible. Cora bowed her head respectfully. I will prepare the ceremonial chamber. Ryan Davenport, emissary Selara, rest for a brief moment. When the hourglass resets, you will begin the final journey. She turned and departed, leaving them in the hushed glow. Ryan set Selara gently on the bench. She reached for his hand. Tonight, she said softly, we cross the stars together, not as savior and ward, but as partners. He pressed his forehead to hers. Partners, he agreed. Outside, the embassy's lights shimmered against the dark silhouette of Phobos, a silent testament to 2 souls bound by fate and promise. Ryan Davenport stood beside Selara at the threshold of the convergence chamber, his heart hammering against his ribs like a drum of war. The corridor's ambient glow faded as 2 massive doors slid open with a low hiss, revealing a vast hall carved from iridescent stone. Glyphs of entwined moons and stars spiraled across the walls, pulsing with soft silver light. At the far end, a circular basin lay at the center of a raised dais, its surface shimmering like liquid mercury. Above, crystalline lenses refracted the chamber's luminescence into fleeting rainbows. Standing before the basin was High Priestess Luna Varos, her slender form draped in robes of woven moonlight silk. Strands of pale hair framed her serene face, and her eyes held the wisdom of centuries. Guardian Cyrus Kane, clad in obsidian armor etched with protective runes, flanked her. His stance was rigid but poised, every muscle coiled like a spring. Counselor Alos remained at the dais's edge, his robes now heavier with ceremony, symbols of Aetithian authority glinting in the lamplight. Welcome, savior and emissary, Luna's voice rippled gently through the stone, carried by unseen currents of sound. Today we bind flesh and blood across worlds. May your hearts be true and your spirits unbroken. She raised a slender staff topped with a crystal prism. Moonlight pooled around it, and the glyphs along the walls brightened in response as though awakening in reverence. Selara's breath caught. Her skin glowed faintly under the prism's rays. Ryan reached for her hand and found it trembling. We're ready, he whispered. Selara nodded, closing her eyes to steady herself. A tremor of fear and determination shook her frame, but she did not waver. Luna gestured toward the basin. Please step forward. Ryan and Selara moved as one, ascending the dais's smooth steps. Cyrus Kane pressed a hand to the basin's rim, testing the liquid's temperature. Water of convergence, he murmured, voice low and reverent. Enchanted with ancestral rites. He poured a few droplets onto Selara's palm, and she gasped as warmth spread through her veins. First trial, the passage of truth, Luna intoned. She tapped her staff against the basin's edge. The liquid swirled, glowing with inner light. You must reveal your deepest fear to the ancestors. Truth opens the path. She turned her gaze to Ryan. Savior, speak. Ryan swallowed, his mouth dry. He stepped forward. I fear failure, he admitted, voice wavering. I fear I will betray the trust Selara placed in me. I fear the burden of this covenant will crush us both. The basin's glow pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. Selara squeezed his hand in solidarity. Emissary, your trial, Luna said, eyes on Selara. Speak your hidden doubt. Selara inhaled, tears gathering. I fear my people will reject what we create. I fear hybrid blood is doomed to neither world. Her voice broke. Guardian Cyrus stepped forward, placing a supportive hand on her shoulder. The basin swelled with light as if acknowledging their honesty. Luna lifted her staff and the glyphs on the walls shimmered. The passage is open, step into the convergence waters. The basin's edge unfurled like a metallic pedal, lowering a stepped platform. Ryan and Solara hesitated, then stepped together onto the platform, their feet dissolving into the luminous pool. Ripples of silver light crept up their legs, casting dancing patterns on their skin. The water was warm, comforting, and oddly vibrant, pulsing with arcane energy. Ryan felt the essence of Solara's being swirl around him, a gentle tide of emotion and stardust. He reached for her and they stood face to face, the basin's surface lapping at their waists. Above them, the prism atop Luna's staff refracted a single beam of light that connected their hearts. Second trial, the bond of endurance, Luna intoned. Cyrus Kane raised a pair of chalices filled with a glowing elixir. Drink the essence of ancestor song. They took the chalices, the liquid inside glowed like captured moonbeams. Ryan brought the cup to his lips and drank. Warmth flooded his senses and visions flickered behind his eyes, Starfield swirling, Aetithian children laughing, Solara's violet smile. He swallowed the harsh tang and his vision cleared. Solara drank next, her slender throat flexing as she swallowed the liquid. Tears streamed as she saw visions of her clan's wastelands, empty nurseries, and twilight shrines. A single sob escaped her lips. Ryan wrapped an arm around her, grounding her in the present. Luna's voice wove through the chamber. If either of you falter, the convergence will fail. The crystal prism pulsed and the basin's waters rose, enveloping them up to their chests. Hold fast. The pool's glow intensified and the glyphs on the walls ignited in a halo of light. A sudden quake rippled through the dais. The basin's rim cracked with a sharp sound. Guardian Cyrus stepped forward, his obsidian blade drawn. An omen of imbalance, he warned. Moonlight fractured across the hall. Ryan steadied Solara, pressing his forearm against the basin's edge as cracks spidered outward. High Priestess Luna's face remained calm. This is the final trial, choice through sacrifice. One must shield the other or face separation. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Choose. Ryan saw panic in Solara's eyes. She raised a hand to stop him. No, she whispered, you must shield me. Ryan shook his head. We do this together. The basin's cracks widened, water seeping through fissures. The prism's beam flickered. Cyrus Kane lunged toward the basin with his blade, intending to sever the cracks. Luna raised a hand to halt him. Only bond can mend what is fractured. She stepped forward, chanting in Aetithian. Ribbons of silver light poured from her staff, weaving around Ryan and Solara like vines of pure energy. Ryan felt the energy press against him. He closed his eyes and thought of Solara's smile, her laughter, the fragile hope in her gaze. He wrapped his arms around her, holding her close. Solara pressed her cheek against his chest, tears mixing with basin water. I trust you, she murmured. Save us. With that invocation, a surge of energy erupted. The basin's waters glowed white-hot and the cracked stone reknit itself with molten light. The prism atop Luna's staff split its beam in two, each ray weaving through Ryan and Solara's clasped forms, sealing their bond. The chamber trembled as ancestral voices echoed. A chorus of Aetithian forebears and human pioneers blended in harmonious resonance. When the light subsided, the basin was whole again. The water settled to a calm silver sheen. Ryan and Solara remained locked in an embrace, their chests rising and falling in unison. Luna lowered her staff, its prism now dim. Guardian Cyrus sheathed his blade, bowing his head. The ritual is complete, Luna proclaimed, voice rich and warm. You have faced fear, honesty, endurance, and united in sacrifice. By your union, the covenant stands. She stepped beside them, raising her hands to gesture a blessing. Solara's legs trembled as she sank to one knee, Ryan catching her before she fell. He pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. We did it, he whispered. Solara's tears shone in the basin's glow. We did it together, she corrected, touching his cheek. Counselor Alos approached, placing a hand on each of their shoulders. You carry now more than a promise, he said softly. You carry the hope of two peoples. May your child bear the strength of both. He gestured upward. The chamber's glyphs glowed once more, projecting a vision of a single starburst uniting twin orbs, symbol of hybrid birth. The waters receded as the platform rose, lifting Ryan and Solara from the basin. Their robes clung damp to their bodies, but their faces shone with triumph and awe. Luna stepped forward, placing a delicate circlet of woven moon silk atop Solara's head. Emissary, wear this as sign of your new role. She then turned to Ryan, draping a sash of starlight fabric across his shoulder. Savior, bear this mantle as guardian of the covenant. Solara rose, accepting the circlet with trembling fingers. She set it gently upon Ryan's brow in return, a silent gesture of reciprocity. Their eyes met, no words were needed. Beneath the gilded arches they stood as partners in destiny, their bond sealed in light and water. As they departed the convergence chamber, Guardian Cyrus closed the doors behind them. Luna's voice echoed down the corridor. Go forth into dawn and dusk alike, for you are now the living bridge between worlds. Outside, the airlock doors opened to the embassy's corridors, where allies awaited with awe and celebration. Ryan guided Solara down the hallway, each step lighter than the last. Though their bodies still tingled with residual energy, their spirits soared. They had crossed the threshold of fear and doubt, forging a unity that would shape the futures of both human and Aetithian alike. Together, they carried the first spark of a new dawn, a hybrid light born of love, sacrifice, and the unbreakable vow of convergence. The Deimos colony's twin suns cast a soft golden haze over the sprawling biodomes just after dawn. Governor Ramika stood on the observation terrace of the lunar birthing pavilion, her gaze fixed on the eastern sky. Beside her, mediator Zalduvn reviewed the final procedural scrolls, ensuring that every ritual and medical protocol aligned with both human and Aetithian customs. The facility had been chosen for its neutrality and advanced bioclinic capabilities, a symbol of cooperation that had grown since Ryan Davenport and Solara completed the convergence. Reporters and dignitaries gathered behind tempered glass, cameras ready to capture what many hoped would become a historic moment of unity. Inside the birthing suite, Dr. Marcus Havel and Lieutenant Isla Brousard monitored Solara's vitals as contractions rippled through her slender form. Solara lay on a specialized bed of adaptive support, her violet skin flushed with effort but alight with resolve. Ryan knelt beside her, brushing a strand of silver-flecked hair from her forehead. He whispered encouragements in a soothing cadence, careful not to disturb the medical instruments arrayed around them. The soft hum of life support modules and ambient music, an Aetithian lullaby composed for the occasion, filled the room with calm energy. "Another wave is coming," Solara murmured, her voice strained but steady. "I feel the child turning." Ryan clasped her hand firmly. "You're doing beautifully," he replied, voice thick with emotion. "I'm right here." Dr. Havel nodded at Isla. "Prepare the hydration gel," he instructed, "and adjust the neural feedback loop to manage pain levels." Isla moved swiftly, applying soothing gels along Solara's arms while monitoring the fusion of human and Aetithian anesthetic protocols. The medical team had spent weeks calibrating doses, ensuring Solara remained conscious yet comfortable, able to participate in the birth rituals. Outside, Governor Ramika addressed assembled delegates through a transparent wall. "Today," her voice echoed through the pavilion speakers, "we bear witness not only to new life but to the promise of our united futures. Let this birth be the dawn of a hybrid era, where human compassion and Aetithian wisdom forge a path toward lasting peace." She paused, eyes glistening. "May this child serve as a living testament to what we can achieve when we embrace our differences and celebrate our common hopes." As the governor spoke, the contraction in the birthing suite reached its peak. Solara cried out and Ryan leaned forward, pressing a gentle kiss to her temple. "We're almost there," he murmured. A warm glow spread through Solara's chest as the ritual energy, residual from the convergence, surged in gentle pulses. High Priestess Luna Varos and Guardian Cyrus Kane had returned to oversee the final prayers. Luna's soft chanting wove through the air, threading ancient Aetithian blessings with human words of love and welcome. Cyrus stood at the foot of the bed, his obsidian blade now sheathed, symbolizing protection rather than war. With a final earth-shaking push, Solara's cry of triumph filled the room. The child emerged slippery and wet, coloring its first gasp of air. Dr. Havel caught the infant and held it aloft for all to see. The baby's skin bore a subtle lavender hue, flecked with faint gold patterns reminiscent of stardust. Its eyes fluttered open, revealing irises that shifted between human blue and Aetithian violet. A single, resonant cry echoed, an otherworldly wail that seemed to blend two languages in one universal sound. Tears streaked down Ryan's cheeks as he reached to cradle the newborn. Solara, panting, reached out, her fingers trembling with joy. Ryan gently placed the child in her arms. Solara's lips curved in awe as she gazed at the tiny being. "Our child," she whispered, voice thick with wonder. "A bridge between worlds." The medical team gave space, bowing respectfully. Isla presented a soft blanket woven from human silk and Aetithian moon thread, wrapping the infant in a fabric that symbolized union. Havel approached with a scanner to record the child's vital signature, a record that would guide future hybrid healthcare. Through the observation window, Governor Ramika stood, her expression radiant. She raised a ceremonial banner bearing both human and Aetithian crests entwined in starlight. Mediator Zalduvn joined her, unfurling the opposite end. The banners billowed in the gentle ventilation currents, a living emblem of shared destiny. Below, assembled colonists and delegates erupted into subdued applause, voices hushed out of reverence. The moment felt sacred, a quiet triumph of hope over fear. In the suite, Luna Varos entered, her eyes shining with tears. She extended a crystal chalice filled with distilled Deimos dawn water. For the naming, she intoned in melodic Aetithian. Solara accepted the chalice and dipped a slender finger into the water, then gently touched the child's forehead. "We name you Aranvi, Star of Dawn," Solara proclaimed. Ryan added, voice steady, "Light of two peoples." The name Aranvi blended Aetithian and human phonetics, a testament to their intertwined heritage. Cyrus Kane recited the guardianship vow, placing a protective talisman under the infant's blanket. May your path be illuminated by dual suns, and may your spirit unite our worlds. With solemn grace he bowed to the parents. Luna followed with a blessing, scattering golden dust that glowed softly before settling around the room. Arkessa, she chanted, a word meaning joined by destiny. Ryan pulled Selara close, the infant cradled between them. Their tears mingled as they shared a quiet, triumphant moment. The Convergence Covenant had borne fruit, a life that embodied unity. Outside, the pavilion's speakers carried a surge of music, an orchestral piece combining human strings and Aetithian wind instruments. The notes soared across the colony, signaling celebration. In the days that followed, Deimos Colony transformed into a beacon of cooperation. Human and Aetithian engineers worked side by side to construct a memorial garden around the birthing pavilion, planting hybrid flora engineered to bloom under both red and yellow suns. Children of mixed heritage played among the bioluminescent blossoms, their laughter a living echo of Aranvi's first cries. Markets opened that sold crafts blending earth fabrics with alien silks, and libraries began to stock books in dual languages. Amidst the festivities, Ryan and Selara navigated their new roles as parents and symbols of change. Ryan gently rocked Aranvi in a cradle fashioned from cometwood, humming an earth lullaby while Selara narrated Aetithian folktales. The child's eyes flickered in delight at both voices, recognizing comfort in both tongues. Each milestone, first smile, first reach, first coup, became a communal event, celebrated by small clusters of colonists who felt they too had birthed something extraordinary. Political leaders used Aranvi's birth to propose new treaties. Governor Remy Ka announced the Deimos Accords, outlining plans for joint research stations, cultural exchange scholarships, and shared defense pacts. Mediator Zal Dovin convened the first hybrid council, where humans and Aetithians drafted guidelines for interspecies education and marriage rights. They cited Aranvi's arrival as proof that cooperation can overcome millennia of mistrust. Meanwhile, on Mars and Earth, news of Aranvi spread like wildfire. Broadcasts showed footage of the birth, the ceremony, and the guardian vow. Public opinion shifted as people saw the promise of hybrid life. Xenophobia gave way to curiosity, and new Aetithian ambassadors arrived to negotiate trade and cultural exhibitions. Ryan received messages from old colleagues at Tarsi's station, congratulating him and requesting his assistance in similar rescue missions, now supported by newly formed humanitarian coalitions. One quiet evening, Selara and Ryan sat beneath the bioluminescent canopy of the memorial garden. Aranvi slept nestled against Selara's shoulder. The hybrid blossoms overhead glowed softly, mirroring the child's ethereal aura. Ryan wrapped an arm around Selara. "Look how far we've come," he whispered. Selara smiled, her eyes reflecting starlight. "And it all began with your choice to rescue me," she replied. "Now our child carries that chance forward." As they watched firefly-like insects of Aetithian origin dance between petals, they felt the weight of history lifting. The Covenant had demanded sacrifice, truth, endurance, and choice, but in return it had given life and unity beyond imagination. Aranvi's gentle breathing reminded them that tomorrow's dawn would herald new challenges, raising a hybrid child, addressing lingering prejudices, charting unknown political waters, but also that hope had taken root. In the epilogue of their journey, months later, the family prepared to visit Zyra's home star, the Aetithian capital, aboard a newly commissioned starliner named the Covenant's Light. Selara packed personal relics, and Ryan secured the charter from both Earth and Aetithian authorities. Aranvi, now toddling, clutched a small shuttle-shaped toy. The hybrid council gathered at departure, offering blessings and vows of support. As they boarded, Ryan looked at Selara, who placed a hand on her belly where their second child already stirred. Together, they stepped into the Starliner's hull, bridging worlds once divided. As the engines ignited and the ship lifted from Deimos's surface into the silent expanse, Ryan whispered to Aranvi, "Your life is the dawn of a new era." The child's delicate coo answered him, and in that moment, two species crossed forever the threshold of fear, forging a future bound by the promise of hybrid light.